Hello, this is Shooter. Follow me as I attempt to speed paint the majority of the minis in my board game collection. In the past, I've painted armies for mini wargames such as Warhammer, Warmachine and Infinity. I also enjoy building and painting scale models. These days I tend to play more board games and I have a large collection with unpainted miniatures. So I plan to use my collection of speed paints to change that. These speed paints, or contrast paints as different companies call them, were designed to help speed up the painting process when painting miniatures, and I think they work great for board game minis. I have only tried both versions of the Army Painter speed paints and the Scale 75 instant colours, so I can't comment on how the other brands perform. With these paints you can simply prime the minis with a flat white spray can and start painting the colours. Using the zenithal priming technique can add even more detail to the finished miniature. My goal is to get these minis painted to resemble their in-game artwork without having to do additional shading or highlighting. I just want the minis to look good on the tabletop and be more fun than grey plastic. Hopefully my journey can be helpful for others. First up is Skyrim the Adventure game, and I will start with the Orsimer. I'm going to be using colours from the original Speed Paint starter set and the Speed Paint 2.0 Most Wanted set. These are the sets that I have. I will also be using my Scale 75 black and white, and I will be keeping it simple by not mixing colours. Painting with the video camera for the first time and doing voiceovers has been a learning experience, and I have continuously made some changes during this video. Hopefully I can continuously improve with each new video. Let me know if there are any techniques you would like to see in more detail. Now to the actual painting. Start off by attaching all the miniatures to these paint stirring sticks I picked up from the local hardware store. That way I can prime all the miniatures at the same time. I start by priming them black. I'm using an airbrush, but you can also use your favourite matte black and matte white spray can to get the same effect. Now that they've been primed black, I spray them from above with a matte white primer to create a zenithal effect. This helps to simulate light from above. With normal miniature paint, I would use a wet palette, but these speed paints tend not to like water, so I've found that using these fidget poppers works really well. Once the paint's dry, you can just pop out the dried paint. I paint the skin with Absolution Green, being careful not to paint on other areas. Now that I've got the skin painted green, I'm going to paint the boots, clothing, leather straps and axe shaft in hardened leather. Here I'm being careful not to get the hardened leather colour on the armoured sections and the axe head, or on the already painted green skin. At this point it's taken me a little less than 5 minutes to get to this point, and I could probably just pick out the finer details like the leather, straps, boots, the hair, and then paint the armour and be finished with a pretty nice looking board game miniature that looks good on the tabletop. It's going to take an extra 10 minutes though and try something different to add an extra layer of detail. I'm going to dry brush the miniature first with a white, and then I'm going to put more speed paints back over the top just to add more depth to the miniature on the whole. When I look at the artwork for this miniature, the skin looks washed out. So to try and replicate this look, I'm going to put a layer of holy white over the top of the green skin. I'm also going to use the holy white on the furs to give them a lighter brown look when painted over the top of the hardened leather. Now I'm going to go back over the boots and clothing and all the leathers with hardened leather. After the dry brush, going over these things with a second coat of hardened leather is going to add more depth to the highlights and shadows. Just picking out the axe shaft with dark wood. I'm using grim black to shade the eye sockets and the mouth. The eyes aren't sculpted onto this miniature, so I'm not going to try and paint them. I think for the purpose of this, it's going to look fine on the tabletop. I highlight the mohawk with Nuclear Sunrise. This was previously painted with hardened leather and then dry brushed white. All the armor and the axe head are going to be painted in broadsword silver. Of all the metallics I've used over the years, this might be my new favourite. It goes down smooth in one coat and has nice contrast between the shadows and highlights. Painting the belts, straps and bags with warrior skin for a lighter leather look. These were previously painted with hardened leather and then dry brushed. The entire base is painted in Grey Lord Grey. I finish off the base by painting the rim in flat black, the wheel in dark wood, and the shield in plasmatic bolt to add a little bit of colour. And we're done. My goal was to paint this reasonably quickly with the finished miniature resembling the card art. Pretty happy with this result. I think it's going to look great on the tabletop, and that was exactly what I was trying to achieve. Overall, I think the total painting time was somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes, and I'm very happy with the result. Next time I think I'll simplify the scheme by not taking the extra dry brushing step and see how that turns out. Thanks for watching.